Hey, so YouTube is filled with eBay success stories. Some of them are even true. And on this very channel, I have a weekly show where I talk about the most profitable things that I sell every single week. But what about all the duds? Even the most seasoned resellers make mistakes. And the truth is, even though I've been doing this for over 26 years, I still make bad buying decisions almost every single week. Whether it's not noticing some stain or rip in a jacket, or buying a board game and it turns out it's missing a ton of pieces, or buying a VCR and taking it home and testing it and it eats your tape. I still bring things home regularly that I probably should not have bought in the first place. But every single one of these bad buys offers the opportunity to learn and improve, and so that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to talk through some of the worst buys that I've made this year, the stuff that I lost the most money on, or that it just really wasn't worth my time. And I'll share the stuff that I learned from each one of these, so let's dig in. All right, so let's kick things off with this boot saga. If y'all have been watching the channel for a while, you might remember that I bought these brand new, they didn't have tags, but they were brand new Justin outdoor mock toe leather boots. I sold these, what did I sell them for? I sold them for $49.99. I got them in an estate sale for $4, and I sent them to the buyer, and then a week later, the buyer sent a message back to me saying, hey, these things broke. The sole completely ripped off, and I thought, what's going on here? These were brand new boots. Is this sounded like, it felt, what it felt like is this buyer was trying to scam me, honestly. And so I was really going back and forth on whether I should refund their money or not, or ask them to return it. And I remember I talked to y'all about this, and y'all were giving me all sorts of information. And I came to learn that even brand new boots that haven't been worn before, especially if they're a little bit older, can still have significant problems with them. And when I buy used shoes, I always do the bend test, where you take a shoe and you bend it to make sure that the sole is intact and that there's no problems there. I do that with used shoes, but I never really thought to do it with new boots. But y'all had told me actually that can be the case with even new shoes if they're old. And so I ended up giving this buyer their money back. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I refunded their money. I didn't require that they send them back. They had sent me pictures, and they looked like they were my boots. And so I don't think that this buyer was trying to pull one over on me. But what I learned here is that even when the shoes are new, you should still fully test them and make sure that there's no problems with them. Give them that bend test, and you just don't want to take home boots and sell boots that are going to fall apart when the buyer puts them on. So that was a good lesson to learn. What's this one? This is like a vent cover. Why did I buy this? I have no idea. It looks like it came from an estate sale for $1. I don't know. I don't know why I bought it. I don't, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know why I bought this. This is not a good purchase. I think I was it's new and it only costs $1. So surely it's worth more than that. And it turns out it was, I sold it for $9 plus $4.99 in shipping, $13.99 total. But the buyer opened up a return on it. I don't remember what the return was. It was probably something stupid. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to pay to have this sent back. Just keep it. Enjoy your free vent cover. I should have never bought it in the first place. Let's see what's next. Okay, this Apple Magic Keyboard. Gosh, this was an annoying one. These are usually worth $20 to $30, and when I see them, I buy them. This was at an estate sale for $1, but I got it home and I looked at it a little bit more closely, and it was dirty. I was like, okay, well, it was still only $1. I can spend a little bit of time cleaning it. Typically, if I see items that require a lot of additional time to get ready to sell, like if it's very dirty and I need to do a lot of cleaning, I will pass on it, because that time that you spend to get it ready to sell effectively eats into your net return, because your time is worth something too. But this one also didn't work. So I put a battery in there and tried to power it on, and it just didn't power on. So I spent $1 on a keyboard that was dirty, didn't work. And you can see my frustration kind of in the title here. It's like 4 parts, does not power on, dirty. I was going to donate this, but I was like, you know what? Somebody will probably want it. I'm not even going to try to clean it. I'm going to spend no more time on this and just sell it as is. Still sold for $9.99, and I got a net return of $1.26. So some would argue that you'd be better off donating and writing the original cost of goods off on your taxes, which is an option. I could have done that, but I only paid $1 for it, and I made $1.26. So, it's kind of, you could have gone either way on that one. Next one on the list here, this Dyson mini turbine head. This came from an estate sale, and it's this estate sale, I've noticed there's 3 items on this list that came from this specific estate sale company. I don't go to estate sales from this company very often because I find that they're very overpriced. That's a good thing about tracking your data in this way. I track on the estate sale level, so you can just see I haven't been to one in 10 months, but they're just expensive. Look at that. I actually wrote right there in the notes, generally expensive. But this Dyson vacuum head, I saw it. What did I pay for it? I think I overpaid. No, it was only $4, but I think I saw the brand. Dyson's a great brand. Their products are very expensive, and I figured like, ooh, for $4, this is probably going to be worth a decent amount of money. Turns out it wasn't. $12.99, and it sold free shipping. Cost to ship was $7.31. My net return was 81 cents on this one. I did get look at that. I got a shipping credit on it, though. I guess I overpaid on postage. That's nice. I didn't even know that until right now. So probably, yeah, the net return was in the negative until I got that postage credit back from eBay. So that's nice. I actually made a little money on this one, even though I thought I lost money. But the point is, just because it's a high-end brand, just because it says Dyson on it, for example, does not necessarily mean it's going to be worth the money you think it might be. So do your comps, look stuff up. Trust your gut, but at the end of the day, if you're investing a decent amount of money in inventory, $4 is not the end of the world. If this was much more expensive, I definitely would have looked it up, but just be careful. Just because it has a name brand doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good deal. Let's see, what's next? Oh yeah, this New Wave. New Wave is a great brand. Anytime I see New Wave products, I typically pick them up even in used condition. They can be worth quite a bit of money, including their sort of infrared ovens like this. This one looks like I got it at a Savers, so a thrift store for $12.80. The problem here, though, is I made a mistake on my shipping calculation. So I don't use calculated shipping on eBay. Instead, I use flat rate shipping. I have some business policies that have a different tiers of shipping rates that I apply to my listings. I have like a $6.99 ground advantage, a $9.99 ground advantage, $14.99, $24.99, just various levels. And I've been doing this long enough. I sort of just know which level an item is going to fit into. And sometimes on sales, you make a little bit of extra money on overages that you charge the buyer for shipping. And on other sales, sometimes you lose a little bit of money because it ended up costing a little bit more to ship than you thought. But the reason I do this is because it increases the speed to list. I don't have to do weights and measures when I'm listing my products. I just sort of eyeball it. And again, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm a little bit better at it than I was when I first started. But on this one, I did not eyeball it very well. You'll see here, I sold it for $46.48. That's $31.49 plus $14.99 in shipping. The first problem with this one is it just wasn't worth what I thought it was going to be. It was worth a little bit less, and so I probably should have comped it better than I did. But it ended up selling for $46.48. That's $31.49 plus $14.99 in shipping. That shipping cost ended up being $33.25, so it was double the cost to ship. And in fact, that only left, $14 of margin left. And after fees and everything, look at that, I lost $8.51 on this deal. This was just a really bad buy on a lot of different ways. One, I should have comped it, and at the purchase price, it probably would not have been worth it. I should have realized it was going to cost more to ship than it actually did. I don't remember. My guess is this probably went to the West Coast. That's why it ended up costing more. This was just not a good buy at all. All right, this one, Birkenstocks, Birkies. These are a weird one. I don't know what exactly happened with this, but I'll tell you what was going on. I bought these at a Goodwill. I did pay up for $17, but they're Birkenstocks, and I knew that they were worth at least $40 or $50. So I spent the money, I bought them, and I sold them, and then the buyer reached out a couple weeks later saying like, hey, these just don't fit right. I said, well, okay, that's fine. You're welcome to send them back. And so they did. They sent them back, and I paid for the return shipping label and all that. And then I relisted them. Thought, okay, it's just, this person just didn't fit their feet correctly. And then I sold them again, and the exact same thing happened again, is that the buyer got them and had the same problem. They didn't fit their feet well. And so I don't know if it's a problem with these Birkie style of Birkenstocks. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but two different buyers had the exact same problem. So when I got that second return back, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cut my losses here. I'm going to donate them back and not try to sell them again. So I ended up losing $42 on this deal. That's a pretty big loss. Just because I don't know. I don't know what's going on with these. I don't know why they were not fitting well. Do you guys know why that might have happened? I checked that they were both the right size. I thought maybe when I got it back the first time, like maybe one is a size 9.5 and the other size is a 9. I don't know, but they were both the same size. They felt okay on my feet. They were tight, but I don't know. It's just a very weird situation, but cut my losses at $42. This was an annoying one. This is a really nice looking unbranded cast iron Dutch oven. I bought it at a flea market for $25. So I paid up quite a bit, but I knew it was going to be worth quite a bit of money. And in fact, it sold in about 6 months for $100 free shipping. But the buyer opened up a return, and they were super nice about it. And they were just like, look, this when I set it down on my stove, it wobbles quite a bit. And I don't know what might have happened with this because I do the wobble test. You know, when I buy a pan like this, it's good to put it on a flat surface to make sure that it doesn't wobble back and forth. And I definitely did the wobble test and thought it was fine. I just am wondering, maybe in the shipping process, could something have happened to this? Could it have been, was it hot or cold? It was January, so it could have been like super cold in the shipping process and that caused it to warp or something. Because when I got the return back, it was mine. I could tell that, you know, had the same markings and everything. They did not send me a different one, and it did have a wobble. So I'm a little bit confused on what could have happened there. Maybe there's some cast iron experts out there watching this who can tell me, does that seem realistic that shipping this in the cold weather could have caused it to deform in some way and cause it to wobble? I don't know, but it ended up, you know, costing a lot of money. It's still listed actively, so I had to disclose now in the listing that it does wobble, and, you know, good luck that it's going to sell. But I'm currently sitting at a negative $53 net return. This is probably not going to sell. The lesson here is, you know, definitely do the wobble test. Make sure if you're selling something like this that it doesn't wobble. People don't want pots like this that are going to wobble on their stove for obvious reasons. So make sure you're doing those tests. Even though this one didn't wobble originally, just a good thing to know. Let's see what's next here. Oh yeah, so this one's a funny one. This one is a Go Video VCR. I bought the VCR. It had the remote and it also had the manual with it. So that's a good sign. Usually that means it's going to be a good working product. If it has the remote, it has the manual, it usually means that the owner of the unit probably kept decent care of it, because people that don't take decent care of it end up losing the remote and they don't hold on to the documentation for it. This one was at an estate sale. That's also a good sign. I don't buy VCRs very often from thrift stores. You just never know how much they've been banged around. But at an estate sale, it's usually like sitting there where the unit has been sitting probably for years. And so it's a pretty good bet that it's going to work. But in this case, the VCR didn't work. And so that's just a risk that you run in buying a VCR. But what I was still able to do to claw back some of that money is I sold the remote on its own. This sold for $11.34, so not an incredible amount of money. And in fact, my net return is in the negative because I gave a purchase price for half the cost of what the VCR was, which was $15. You'll see here, I also sold the documentation for it. So the documentation went for $13.28 and a net return of a negative 92 cents. But if you look at the payout on this was $6.58. The payout on this one was $4.97. So I clawed back quite a bit of that money that I would have otherwise lost. And so you can make that decision when you make a bad buy. There's a chance that there's some parts that will still sell for some money. But the VCR itself, I usually stack up my VCRs that don't end up working, and then I put them on Facebook Marketplace for a pretty low amount, and there's people out there that just will buy old VCRs to repair them, and that's what I did with this one. But the point is, on this one, if you buy something and if it's broken, try to figure out a way that you can claw some of that money back, like in this case, selling the remote and selling the documentation. Okay, so these Puma suede shoes, my mistake here, I bought these at a Salvation Army for $5.99. Didn't look them up or anything. I just thought that they looked kind of interesting. You didn't see, I don't see Puma shoes in this color scheme very often. I thought, well, they're probably worth more than $6. The biggest mistake I made here was that I didn't notice that they were youth size. And so youth sized shoes generally go for quite a bit less than adult sized. These sat on my shelf for a long time. I purchased them in 2021. They took over a year to sell, 3 years to sell. Actually, they shipped out on my birthday. How about that? So I sold them for $15 over a year. So I stored these for 3 years in my inventory to only make a net return of 70 cents. So if you're not sure, if you're still getting started, let me tell you, that's not a good buy. You should not buy that to resell. And I really don't go back into my inventory a whole lot and weed out all the stuff that I probably shouldn't have bought. I just have a decent sized space for my inventory and it doesn't impede on my regular home life. And so I don't mind letting it sit for a while. In this case, I never should have bought this in the first place. Storing something for 3 years to make 70 cents makes no sense for anyone, including myself. So I will not be buying something like that in the future. So keep an eye out. If some of those youth sizes can look like adult sizes, usually the label will say youth on it or it will have a letter Y on it. So keep an eye out for that. All right, so here we go. This Simply Safe video doorbell. I got this at a Salvation Army for $7. I've bought and sold a lot of Simply Safe stuff over the years, and they're usually very good. They sell quickly and for a lot of money. This one, in fact, sold in 7 hours for $50. So it was a great sale, but the buyer reached out a few days after that and they said, what did they say? Something like, they said, item is still paired to another account and was unable to get Simply Safe to remove the former account, cannot use the item. I didn't know this, but I guess the doorbells, have to be paired to a Simply Safe account, and apparently you cannot unpair it. So this buyer could not use this item. They returned it. And I thought about maybe calling Simply Safe to see if I could get it unpaired and resell it or not. But again, remember, your time is worth something too. I ended up just wrapping this with a little note saying it's paired to an account and donating it back to the thrift store. Maybe somebody else will want to figure it out. I can write all these expenses off on my taxes. So it was a $17 loss. But that to me was just better than going through and trying to figure out spending a bunch of time trying to figure out whether I can get it unpaired. Because at the end of the day, maybe I couldn't. And then I also wasted a bunch of time. So I just redonated. This one here, a Kindle, I got this at an estate sale. I paid $12 for it, but I knew it was going to be worth a decent amount of money. I was going to figure $30 to $40 is what I would get on this, but it's really difficult to test something like this at an estate sale. I could have plugged it in. It might take a long time for this empty battery screen to go away and actually show that it's working. So I took the risk on this one. I bought it. I took it home and I plugged it in overnight and came back and it still was showing this empty battery screen. I went through some resetting things. I tried to do a hard factory reset on it. I did a bunch of Google searches on how to fix it. Ultimately, I spent 15, 20 minutes on it and I said, okay, I'm not going to spend any more money on it. I'm just going to sell this used for parts. And so you can see here in the title, not working, stuck at battery screen. It still sold for $19.99. The net return was $1.06. So I still made a little bit of money on it, even in its broken condition. But that purchase price was pretty high for an older Kindle like that. I, probably would still buy this again, honestly, just because I wouldn't assume that it's going to be broken and stuck on that battery screen. So turns out this one did. That kind of sucks, but not the biggest loss. Here's a good one. HP 564 ink is a great thing to look out for. The thing is, you got to keep an eye on the expiration date. Some people say that the expiration date is not the ink itself, but it's the warranty. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Ink does last a while. It's not like it's food. You're not ingesting it. But if the cartridges are very old, I do think that the ink eventually dries up. And I don't know if that's what the expiration date is referring to or not. I don't know if it's for the warranty or not. But either way, people still do buy expired ink. My rule is if it's more than 5 years expired, I just don't buy it. But people still buy, ink that's been expired for a few years. Turns out when I bought this one, I remember this was at an estate sale. I paid $8 for it, which at the time I was like, okay, it's probably going to be worth 20 or 30 bucks. I'll go ahead and do that. It'll sell quickly. What I forgot to do was check the expiration date. It ended up expiring in 2013. That's way older than my own rules for what I buy. I just forgot to check here. It only sold for $9, free shipping. So the purchase price was $8. So obviously I was going to lose money on this one. $5.09 I lost on this one. So not a good buy at all. Okay, so here we've got some quick set deadbolts. I bought these at a garage sale for $3. I think they were $1 a piece. And I had a big box of a lot of these things and I ended up lotting them together. This one sold for $59.98, so a really good profit. But the thing is I did not completely check to make sure that these were complete. I don't know a whole lot about deadbolt sets. I opened them up, I looked at them, I looked at other listings, and it looked like this had all the pieces that it needed, and they looked like they were new. I mean, I just couldn't tell that they had been used. So I sent these to the buyer. They sent a message pretty quickly saying, hey, it's missing, and they listed off some things. And I was like, well, I just didn't do my research well enough. This is on me. It sounds like this buyer knows what they're talking about. I can't confirm that it actually had the pieces that they were saying that it had. So this is on me to just do better research. And I should have made sure that this had all of the pieces that it needed to have. And I thought it did, but I was wrong. And I ended up losing $60 on it. I could have had them send it back, but I usually don't give refunds without requiring that the buyer send it back. But my rationale here was one, it was going to be expensive to have them send it back. Well, not too bad, $6.35. But I don't want, what am I going to do with them? I just don't want them in that scenario if they are truly missing pieces. If I was 100% certain that they weren't missing those pieces, then yes, I would have required that they send them back to get a refund. But I didn't know. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll give you the refund and just don't send them back. Don't worry about it. So I don't waste another $6 on it because I lost $9.35 on this one. So yeah, this was not a good one. The lesson here is just make sure when you're selling stuff, especially if they have a lot of complicated, intricate pieces, that they're all there. And now I probably will not be buying deadbolt sets in open box or used condition because I'm afraid that I might miss on some pieces that should be there. So, all right, so these headphones, I bought these at a garage sale for only 50 cents. I remember that. So I didn't look them up or anything, but I figured this checked a lot of boxes. You know, it was a Disney piece. It was Star Wars. They were new in the package, headphones. And I said, for 50 cents, like, it's got to be worth reselling, right? Like, I was thinking $20, $30. I didn't look it up or anything. Well, it turns out they weren't worth very much money. $9 is what this one sold for. Free shipping. You might be thinking, like, why didn't you charge shipping on that? But here's the thing. This thing had a lot of active and sold comps with a very specific value. And the specific value was like $9 or $10. And so if I would have priced this at $9 plus, I don't know, $6 in shipping, whatever it cost, $5 in shipping, I would have been pricing myself out of the market. Otherwise, I would have had to price it at like $4 plus $5 in shipping. And I thought in this scenario, $9 in free shipping was more attractive. So I went ahead and sold it. I made $1.90, but like I think the lesson that I learned from this one is that just because there's some big names attached to a thing, if it checks a lot of boxes like Disney, Star Wars, new in the box, doesn't automatically assume it's going to be worth a decent amount of money. This was worth a lot less than I thought it was going to be. So this jersey, this Adidas jersey, I bought at a garage sale for $5. This is, the player was Colton Parayko. I think he used to play for the St. Louis Blues. Anyway, this was a World Cup of Hockey jersey, and it looked pretty cool, and it comped out really well, and it sold pretty quickly, I think. Yeah, 12 days to sell for $36.99. I had paid $5 for it, so my net return was going to be pretty decent, but the buyer opened up a return and complained that it was fake, and I just don't know, honestly. I did disclose that there were some issues on this. Some of the patches were sort of coming off on the edges. I don't know if that's an indicator that it could have been fake. Everything looked good to me, but I'm not an expert in authenticating jerseys. So I took this buyer's word for it. I made him send it back. I re-inspected it. Honestly, it still didn't look fake to me, but whatever. I was then scared to sell it again. I have no interest in selling inauthentic items. So I just went ahead and donated it and cut my losses. Ended up losing, let's see, $19.68 on this deal. And so I don't know, this is not going to discourage me from buying jerseys in the future, but it's just a risk you run, is that some buyers might think that they're fake. Maybe they have a better idea of what a fake jersey looks like. Again, this thing looked real to me, but I don't know. So that's what happened on that one. This one is a crutch, like a hands-free crutch. And if y'all have seen my video on how to list anything in 4 minutes or less, this is the item that I listed in that video to show my listing process. And it was a bad one. It ended up being a very bad sale, probably one of the biggest losses that I've had on a sale in a long time. Look at this, negative $86 net return on this. I'll tell you the story of why. I got it at a Salvation Army for $15, which is a really good deal because it sells for it sold for $115 in 7 days. The problem is that I underestimated the shipping cost. Shipping costs are largely determined on the size. The weight matters too, but the size matters more. And this required a giant box. And I later learned that this thing could have been broken up into multiple pieces instead of one big piece in a giant box. So that was the first mistake that I made, is I had to ship it in a large box. And I had free shipping on it. So again, it's another risk that I took here, is I had free shipping on it. There's so many problems in this sale. This is going to be a fun one to talk through. The first problem was that the cost of ship was just way too high. $71.66, because I had a double whammy. It was in the West Coast. I was sending it to California. And in most situations, I don't mind if it's going to be in a larger box, because I can ship it FedEx or UPS and it's going to be relatively cheap. It's going to be like maximum. I was expecting maximum $20 to ship this thing anywhere in the United States. But the second whammy of the double whammies was it was going to a P.O. box. I've later learned that you can ship things to a P.O. box from FedEx. I did not know that at this time. So I went ahead and was like, whatever, I'll spend the $71.66 to ship this thing, because I was still going to make money. I wasn't going to make as much as I thought, but I was still going to make like 20 or $30. But then a return got opened up. I could have allowed the buyer to send it back to me using the eBay label, but that was going to cost another $70, which I just didn't want to do. And I think there may be ways that you can like provide a label through other means, but it's just like, I just didn't want to mess with it. I just wanted to move on to the next one. So I just said, you know what, keep it. I marked it as disposed here, and I took a loss on it of $86.66. Probably the worst loss that I've had so far. Definitely this year, the largest loss, maybe ever. I don't know. But you know what? It's not a big deal. There's probably ways that I could have reduced that loss. But the biggest lesson that I learned now is that there are actually ways to ship to a P.O. box using FedEx. And so knowing that in the future, I would would have definitely saved myself some money on that. I think that also would have helped with the return label costs. So there you go. Those are some of my worst buys of 2024. What I hope you take away from this video is that even when you do make bad buying decisions, very rarely does it end up being a major loss for you. Like the biggest loss I had was $88, which, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money, but most of the losses that I just talked through wasn't a whole lot of money. Sometimes I even made a very small amount of money on what I consider bad buys. So just get out there, do your sourcing. Don't beat yourself up when you make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, even people that have been doing this for years. I certainly will continue to make a ton of mistakes. I'll just keep learning from them. So I want you to do the same thing. You'll end up just fine. Have fun out there.